Well, to a New York City court now where Donald Trump was forced to listen to testimony today from Stormy Daniels. An adult film star, Daniels was allegedly paid $130,000 to keep quiet about an affair she claims she had with Donald Trump. An affair that took place before he was president and one that she described in explicit detail in a criminal case against the former U.S. president today. Well, with more on the testimony and the trial itself, we're now joined by David Levinthal, editor-in-chief with Raw Story. Dave, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Michael. Thank you.
So listen, I think it's good for us to begin with a reminder, especially for our Canadian audience, of what U.S. prosecutors are trying to prove with this trial. What law has Donald Trump allegedly broken here?
There are 34 counts that Donald Trump is on trial for, and it's all about falsification of business records. Now, on one hand, that sounds pretty boring, almost white bread. But on the other hand, it's about as salacious underlying as you can possibly get. And what we had today was testimony from Stormy Daniels, the adult film star who says that she had a sexual encounter, an affair with Donald Trump. She was testifying in rather graphic terms about her encounter with Donald Trump. And really the crux of all of this is, did Donald Trump try to pay Stormy Daniels off, and knowingly and willfully doing that in order to basically hush Stormy Daniels up so that she would not, or the story of this encounter that is alleged, would not ruin his 2016 presidential campaign? Big question right now that is an open one in court.
Yeah, a big question, as you say. But, you know, Donald Trump, it's interesting because he began by denying the affair altogether. But it seems now he's transitioned to just denying any involvement in any payment to Stormy Daniels. Talk to us about his evolving defense here.
Well, Donald Trump, as we all well know, will evolve in his defense of lots of different things, or his views on different things. He can hold sometimes multiple positions at the same time in terms of policy, or in this case, his personal life. So as a result, it does seem that he is moving away from that longtime denial that he never had anything to do with Stormy Daniels in a sexual way or otherwise. But the testimony that she is giving under oath would directly contradict that, and has directly contradicted that. So unless Donald Trump comes out in this week and says, hey, I'm sticking to my guns, none of this ever happened, this is all a ruse, this is all false news, then it does seem to be that this encounter did take place, and ultimately Stormy Daniels is going to continue testifying until she's done, which we'll see if she's still on the stand later this week.
Mm-hmm. Now, and interestingly, with what she has been providing, today at least, there were moments of her testimony that were very explicit. And I know that Donald Trump's defense had issue with that. But I'm wondering why prosecutors decided to go there, because at some point there seemed to be even some question as to how consensual their encounter was.
Yeah, well, first of all, prosecutors have, in essence, more or less acknowledged that Stormy Daniels will take liberties in the way that she talks, and she's not necessarily a witness who's the easiest to control, if you will. But Stormy Daniels did talk in very graphic terms. There was coaching from the judge, basically saying, look, there are certain things that we don't want to discuss here today, the most graphic details of this encounter. Stick to what you are asked. Stick to the questions that are being posed to you. Answer those questions, and don't freelance too much, more or less, is what was being said there.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and certainly a lot of eyebrows raised. But, you know, before we're done here, I have to ask, how is this affecting Trump's campaign to be reelected this fall? Because at the very least, he's required to sit through all of this trial right now.
Yeah, and prosecutors put Stormy Daniels up on the witness stand to basically prove that there was motive and intent for Donald Trump to hush Stormy Daniels up, to pay her off, and to not have this information get out there, not just for his family or the sake of Melania Trump, his wife, but for the sake of his campaign. So flash forward 8 years from 2016 to 2024. The question of how is this going to affect his campaign? I think the easy answer, Michael, is that immediately it's not, at least in the eyes of his most hardcore supporters. It doesn't matter what Donald Trump does, they are going to stick with him. The question remains about those voters, however, who are on the margins. Those independent voters, the very few voters in this country who are truly, genuinely undecided, or the voters who might be on the fence in 8, 9, 10 key swing states in the country, places like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Arizona, the states that are ultimately going to decide the fate of the 2024 election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So, stay tuned to this case, but also, too, let's remember there are 88 felony counts overall that Donald Trump is facing. 4 different criminal cases. This is just the first. There may be others that ultimately come and spool up prior to Election Day, and that's a big variable and unknown at this point, Michael.
Okay, well, of course, that means we're going to call you again in future, Dave. But for now, thank you for this, David Levinthal in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Michael.